In this video, I'll tell you about Grimdark Future Star Quest, an amazingly unique solo and co-op narrative game from one-page rules, and why I like it. If you've been interested in solo and or co-op miniature wargaming, but you're new to it and not real sure how to make it work, then this video is for you. In late 2024, the folks over at One Page Rules, the makers of excellent miniature agnostic rule sets that'll work with pretty much all kinds of different miniatures, even Games Workshop stuff, they released Grimdark Future Star Quest, a sci-fi solo co-op skirmish adventure game. You run a small party of 2 to 4 hero models, and you fight off waves of enemies and also do objectives and mission stuff and all that kind of thing. But that's not what makes it special. I remember hearing about the release of this system, and I was glad to learn that the folks at One Page Rules were, finally heading into solo and co-op games. I'm a fan of solo and co-op games. Nearly every game that Vince and I have produced since 2022 for our game company, Snarling Badger Studios, has had the ability to play it solo or co-op, along with the standard versus kind of adversarial mode. But this Star Quest game was designed specifically to be solo and co-op only, and I appreciated the commitment. However, I never got a chance to try it. 2025 was a pretty tough year for me and my family, and I didn't get to play as many games as I would have liked. Fast forward to last month, and I was painting and, listening to the Hive Scum podcast on my headphones, as I am wont to do, and they were raving about this One Page Rules Star Quest thing, and it took me kind of a second to remember what it was. Later that day, I went online to see how much, Star Quest cost and where I could get it. Most of their games cost $5, unless you're a Patreon supporter, and then they're included with the Patreon thing, but this seemed to be free. I downloaded a few of the files, like the core rules and the beginner's guide, and then I also looked up some videos about it on YouTube, stuff from the Hobby Homies channel Down Under. OPR has done something very different than most other solo and co-op game designers, and it's mainly due to their excellent and free army building website. It helps to automate much of the bookkeeping that's kind of inherent to solo and co-op campaign games, and it does it in a really clever way. In Grimdark Future Firefight, the standard 2-player sci-fi skirmish game from One Page Rules, you generally build a force of 200 or 300 points, and your units have mainly just 2 stats, quality and defense. You also have weapon stats and some special abilities depending on the character or the class or whatever, but your individual models are pretty streamlined rules-wise. However, that changes in Grimdark Future Star Quest. In that game, you build only 2 to 4 heroes, and they have quality, defense, power, strength, dexterity, and willpower stats, plus weapons and equipment, and even a little bit more. The really cool thing about Star Quest and why I like it is this. It leans heavily into narrative play through your construction of your band of heroes. You pick one of your models that you already have, let's say, right? And then, whether it looks like a hero or not, heroes got to start somewhere, right? And then you stat it out in the Army Forge section for Star Quest, right? You do this for 2 to 4 models, and then once they're all saved and ready to fight, then you have to set up some opponents for them, to battle and all that kind of stuff. And I think this is where this system really shines. Before you play your first game, you go to the Army Forge website and you create a collection of enemies. They tell you to simply pick an army and then create a list using as many models from your actual physical collection as possible. I was trying to figure out how many Chaos Cultists that I have painted, and if I know where they all are, right? And I was going to add all those to a collection, along with maybe some Chaos Space Marines as well. But then I remembered that I had an entire 1,000-point army of Robot Legions painted for Grimdark Future, and they were all ready to go, so I put them into a collection. The game plays on a 4x4 play area, and they suggest 20 or probably more pieces of terrain, which I think is a great idea for skirmish-style games. The more terrain, the better, in my opinion. When you want to start a solo game, and you already have your heroes put into the system, then you hit Start New Mission, and it'll ask if it's a solo mission or if it's a co-op mission. You click solo, and then it'll ask for a level of difficulty. It will choose the enemies for you to fight from the collection that you put in there, right? Based off of the point cost of your heroes, and then it will tweak it kind of dependent on how difficult you want it to be. Then you choose your heroes, choose your enemy collection, and then the game will start. It keeps track of like tons of things for you, how many wounds you have, each hero and stuff like that, damage states that the heroes might have, things like diseased, impaired, and other ones. And like when you discover search tokens during the mission, like a certain objective that you need to check out on the board, then it'll, you click that and it'll give you a chart to roll on to see what it was that you got when you searched there. And it generates the waves of enemies that it takes from your collection, for you to fight, again, based off of the point cost of your heroes and the difficulty level that you picked before. It really, really helps you to keep track of everything that you need to play the game, which can be very helpful in a solo game that leans a little bit more into like narrative play instead of like a normal stand-up fight. Again, Star Quest is a bit deeper and crunchier than regular Grimdark Future Firefight is, but the Army Forge website really helps you to like keep track of all that stuff and really helps to move the game along. As with all things one-page rules, when you're using the Army Forge website, you can like mouse over pretty much any rule that's on the screen and a little pop-up will explain what it does. But what if you want to play co-op instead of just solo? This is where it gets really cool. You design, let's say, 2 heroes, in the website, and then your friend that you'll be playing with does as well, like on whatever device that they have or whatever. Then, when it's time to play, one of you chooses to host the game, and you select Host Online Mission, and pick your heroes and enemy collection and all that kind of stuff, like you do in the solo mode. But it also generates a session code. Your friend puts that code into their device, again, like phone, laptop, tablet, whatever, and then the host, whoever's hosting, sees both players' heroes, their own and, their friend that they're playing with, and then they can track all their stats and bonuses and everything like that right there. It puts them together, and it's really cool. Playing in campaign mode goes like this. A campaign is made up of D3 plus 2 chapters. D3 meaning you roll a D6 and then divide it by 2, right? So you get a 1 or a 2 or a 3. And then you add 2 to it, right? That's how many chapters you have. And then each chapter has D3 missions. This means that the campaign could be as few as 5 missions or as many, potentially, as 15. You can upgrade your heroes between missions, and they can also buy and sell new weapons and equipment stuff between chapters. There's injuries to roll for, as you take damage during a game and everything, a mission, and your heroes can level up as you play, which gives them improvements to their stats. All of this is tracked through the Army Forge website, and it really adds a near RPG feel to your solo and co-op gaming. You can mix and match your heroes as well. They don't all have to be from the same faction. You could have a human defense force commander working with a rogue robot legion warrior who's left the robot legion, is on his own now. And you could even throw in a Gator veteran from the Saurian Star Host as well. Why are they all working together to battle this robot legion horde in this godforsaken rock? Well, that's part of the story that you're building, right? Can this ragtag group save the space orphanage from the metal monsters? Let's find out. And as I mentioned, it's free. I asked one of the folks at One Page Rules about that, and they said that while the game is totally free, they do also make, purchasable narrative campaigns available if you're interested. They're not required, but they're available if you want to check them out. But really, they said that they know that rule sets like this help the wargaming community, and hopefully they help drive Patreon support for one-page rules and perhaps, sell more of their excellent STLs for 3D printing as well. Honestly, I'm really impressed with this system. It makes solo and co-op campaign play really accessible to anybody who wants to try it out, and it keeps the bookkeeping and the stats tracking stuff very much under control. And if you're not into sci-fi, there's also a version for their fantasy line, which is called Age of Fantasy Quest, which I haven't tried out, but I assume it works pretty much the same way for the most part. If you've played the fantasy version, let us all know down in the comments if it's pretty much the same or if there's some kind of difference. So that's why I like it. And if you're interested, there's literally nothing much stopping you from trying it out. The rules PDFs are free and available on the One Page Rules website, link in the description. And the Army Forge Online Builder, which is also free, will work on pretty much everything, even your phone. Have you tried Star Quest? Are you thinking about trying it now? Let us all know down in the comments below. And if you like videos like this, like why I like it specifically, or any other videos that I make, I'd appreciate some depressmentation of the like button, because that's why you like it. It really helps me out. If you want to see videos like this every single Friday, while you're down there pushing buttons, there's also a subscribe button you could hit. It's absolutely free. Thanks for watching.